Shin Yusung's right hand quietly rose toward the sky. Cry, King Masswood. Then the Ichthyosaur king behind her quietly raised his body. The king of the Ichthyosaurs, King Masswood, used Ice Breath. Han River instantly froze, and the Ghost Fleet finding their shells gradually lost their function. The fleet was unable to move. Unni, I'll give you one piece of advice. The Ghost Fleet is nothing without water. Everything happened in an instant. Shin Yusung's right fist moved as well. There was a sound of something popping. Li Jie lost her sword and flew through the sky. Of course. It's useless to give advice at this point. The bleeding Li Jie flew away and had already lost consciousness. King Masswood's ice breath had completely spread across Han River.
What?
The incarnations crossing the cold water shrieked. The hundreds of people were destined to be frozen along with Han River. There was a person watching nearby who saved the helpless incarnations. The character, Lee Hyung-sung, has used the Stigma, Great Mountain Smash Level 5. Lee Hyung-sung's inflated right arm hit the frozen river. His right arm seemed to burst as he used Great Mountain Smash to break up the ice. His efforts were rewarded. The surface of the cracked Han River collapsed, and the influence of the cold breath weakened. The incarnations took the opportunity to climb onto the island.
Attack!
Shin Yusung saw Lee Hyung-sung standing in the middle of them and smiled sadly. Hyung-sung Oppa, I knew you'd be here.
You know me?
You are a most reassuring shield. You saved my life many times. Shin Yusung gestured, and the huge chimpanzee behind her hit his chest and walked forward. The 5th grade behemoth, Heavy Metal Bean. He stomped his hind legs, and the nearby incarnations rolled on the ground. Lee Hyung-sung rushed towards Heavy Metal Bean. His swollen arm hit the behemoth's steel muscles. Lee Hyung-sung's power was amazing. He wasn't pushed back by the 5th grade behemoth, despite his blood vessels bursting and blood flowing from his mouth. No, he was rather overwhelming. Shin Yusung kept speaking to Lee Hyung-sung. You're the same as ever, Hyung-sung Oppa. One of Yu Zhong's most loyal...
Who are you?
You saved the lives of countless people and protected Yu Zhong until the end. Then you were hit by the breath of the Iron Blood Dragon and scattered into a handful of ashes.
What?
Do you know what Yu Zhong said then? Shin Yusung's tongue was a sharp scalpel that transplanted the words she received into another person. I lost a bad shield. Shin Yusung saw Lee Hyung-sung's changed expression and struggled with a solitary pleasure. Yes, you should feel this too. The pain I felt, the sights I saw. I want to unleash all of them, but you should understand this too. However, she didn't know. This round of regression was different from what she knew. Lee Hyung-sung hit the Heavy Metal Bean and opened his mouth.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't follow you, Jong-uk.
What?
I'm in Kim Duksha's party.
Kim... what? The Heavy Metal Bean fell to the ground with a loud sound. Shin Yusung's expression hardened, and she approached Lee Hyung-sung. What are you talking about? There was a popping sound, and Lee Hyung-sung flew through the air. Shin Yusung had punched him in the belly. The ether storm pierced through his solid skin, and he flew to the middle of Han River. The blow was hard enough to cause all his organs to rupture. The Lee Hyung-sung of the 3rd round would no longer be able to live. However, a question remained in Shin Yusung's head. It was a name she never heard of before. Kim Duksha. Who was he? Shin Yusung tore off the heads of the incarnations rushing towards her and slowly walked towards the frozen river. The frightened incarnations fled and were torn apart by the claws of monsters. Little by little, despair filled the eyes of the people. A sign of resignation spread through the incarnations facing the impossible disaster. Shoot! Of course, there were some people who tried to resist. The kings grouped up and used long-distance skills to fire arrows and ether bullets. Shin Yusung knew them. King of Beauty, Min Jiwon. The Maitreya King, Cha Sung-kyung. The Neutral King, Jeon Il-do. It was strange. They were those who originally shouldn't be alive, or had already gone under Yu Zhonguk's leadership. It was because all kings other than Yu Zhonguk should have been incorporated into one throne at the end of the 4th scenario. Then what the hell was this? Attack! There's only one enemy! Who the hell was this army under? Where had the absolute throne gone? Who was governing this world? It was at this moment she felt killing intent. The ground where Shin Yusung was standing on was frozen. Ice breath? She reflexively looked behind her and saw a large serpent pouring its breath towards her. It wasn't the King Masswood. She raised her right hand, and the King Masswood moved. Two ichthyosaurs roared against each other at the same time and started to bump against each other. The Queen and King bit at each other, turning the entire Han River into a huge battlefield. An ichthyosaur the size of a dragon was fighting King Masswood. This ichthyosaur. Shin Yusung knew its identity. Queen Mirabad? She knew that the Queen was on Earth, but there was no reason to attack her. No, what was this? Are you the future me? A voice was heard. She looked back, and Shin Yusung's mind became blank. The nostalgic days shook her soul. Save Ajishi! The girl shouted while a woman tried to stop the girl. Yusung, no! Shin Yusung recovered from the shock and noticed everything. Yes, I knew it. Shin Yusung moved towards the girl. She knew why Yu Zhong had done this. He was a human who would justify any means and methods to achieve his purpose. Yu Zhong, you son of a bitch. Yusung, flee! Yusung has simultaneously activated Hermes' walking method and Arachne spiderweb. Shin Yusung's eyes narrowed. Olympus? However, Yusung's dagger didn't reach Shin Yusung. Shin Yusung made a simple hand gesture, and the flying monsters gathered around the gate flew towards Yusunga. In a flash, Yusunga disappeared into a horde of monsters. Shin Yusung ignored Yusunga and approached the little girl. The girl looked up at her with fear and anger. Shin Yusung raised a hand to the girl's cheek. Yu Zhong really did find the me of this world. He tried to kill the little me to stop me, right? A terrible joy filled Shin Yusung's head. The faded hatred and anger quickly returned to their place. There were some things that couldn't be changed, no matter how many times a person went back to the past. The disaster Shin Yusung laughed. Hello, my past self. The moment her hand moved, a strong blow came from the rear and swallowed up Shin Yusung. The dust rose, and a giant praying mantis appeared. A 6th grade insect king? Titano, do it! The sickle attacks of the praying mantis turned the ground into tofu. It was a scary attack. Of course, it wasn't an attack that could kill a disaster. Get lost! The ether condensed in Shin Yusung's right arm and drilled a hole into the Titanoptera's stomach. The praying mantis spilled green blood and fell to the ground. Titano! The outraged Li Gilyoung jumped from the head of the praying mantis. A yellow mucus emerged from Li Gilyoung's body and spread into the air. Go, Antinous! A parasite emerged from Li Gilyoung's body. It was the 5th grade parasite species. Shin Yusung was startled. Antinous? Shin Yusung knew this presence. It was because she destroyed Kronos before coming to Earth. Antinous was the dominant species on Kronos. She was a monster in the form of Queen. Shin Yusung couldn't believe it. This child had dominated Antinous? You're better than expected, kid. After her moment of surprise, Shin Yusung grabbed the parasite in her hands. Antinous' mucus that was touching her fingertips started to burn black. It was natural. The guides had bodies that couldn't resist the disasters. You have the talent to tame a guide. You're a child of the talent of the Lord, right? He also found. Li Gilyoung shouted without caring about her questions. What did you do to Dokja Hyung? What? Where's Hyung? Li Gilyoung's fist hit her belly. It was a direct blow, but Li Gilyoung was the one whose wrist broke. He was a great talent, but the opponent was too terrible. Shin Yusung grabbed Li Gilyoung's neck and lifted him into the air. Who is Dokja? Blood poured down the struggling Gilyoung's face. Say it, otherwise I'll kill you. At this moment, a booming sound was heard in the distance, and shells fell towards the ground where she was standing. Shin Yusung jumped lightly and avoided the shells. The ghost fleet started firing again? How? Gilyoung! She could see Li Jihe and Li Hyungsung running in the distance. Doubt filled Shin Yusung's head. It was strange. Surely those were deadly blows. How were they still alive? Did her strength control fail? Her? Shin Yusung felt annoyed and inserted more strength into the hand holding Li Gilyoung's neck. In any case, it was better to ask them. Goodbye, kid. The moment she increased her grip, pain spread in her head. She was startled and dropped Li Gilling to the ground. Her trembling right hand was wriggling abnormally. Surely she wasn't infected with a parasite. No, it was impossible. A 5th grade parasite couldn't interfere with a returnee. And what was this? Why wasn't her body listening to her all of a sudden? Then she heard a voice. Stop, Shin Yu-sung. Strangely, Shin Yu-sung found something deep inside her react the moment she heard this voice. One side of her heart started to ache like crazy. She didn't know it. It was obvious a voice she didn't know. Who the hell are you? Get out of me! What was this nostalgic feeling? Shin Yu-sung grabbed her head like she was resisting her own senses. You! Get out of me! She was filled with the desire to vomit as unknown memories revolved in her head. The films of the worlds were becoming tangled together. Yu-sung. She was distracted by the voice when the young Shin Yu-sung approached. The young Shin Yu-sung's lips moved. Ajishi, are you there?